So the other day I was sitting here and my wife goes,
"Hey honey, your new bike is here."
"What? I didn't order a bike."
"Well, it's a big old box that says Polygon on it."
This big old bike box is labeled Polygon, but I still had no clue what was inside. Oh, it's their new Colossus! Dude, let's get this bike together. Well, that was a surprise. I didn't even know I was getting this. So this is a new model, a Colossus N9, and I'm already starting to see some really cool things. 160mm travel frame with a wild looking 6-bar linkage. This frame is beefy, and check out the seat stay bridge. Fox Flow XT rear shock, and oh, it's the Performance Elite model, nice. Shimano Dior XT drivetrain, never tried that either. Check this out, a down tube protector for shuttling. Oh, and a fender too. And comes stock with a bash guard and a chain guide. And then there's some parts that I'm not too sure about. SRAM Kodar brakes. I'm not really a SRAM brake guy and I have not liked them in the past. These Entity wheels, I'm sure they're super heavy, but 35mm internal width, I've never tried that before. This bike is spec'd out and I checked. It's being sold for $3,500 complete. But I've always wondered if buying a complete bike saves you money, so I added up all the parts if I were to buy them all separately, and it added up to $3,300, meaning the frame would be the remainder $200. So I'd say, yeah, completes are a better value, but I'm gonna take it for a quick spin. But can we just take a moment and appreciate this paint job? This bike comes in forest green with holographic logos and a rainbow metallic finish. Reminds me of a Pokemon card. I went with a medium, even though the website recommended a large. I'm 5'9" and I love a 460mm reach.
There we go, first drop in.
So I took the bike out for a spin at my local trails, Slaughter Pen in Bentonville. At this point, I knew nothing about this bike other than it's a long travel enduro, but I quickly made some discoveries. Whoa, this bike is heavy, almost like a park bike.
Oh, this actually handles bumps really well. Going kind of slow though.
I'm going so slow. It feels like I'm riding with a flat tire. Then mid-ride, I got off the bike and I just had to see why it felt so slow. All right, these Swalby tires, they feel super heavy. Magic Mary, oh, super gravity casing. No wonder why they feel so heavy. I had to look this up. Super gravity casings are not downhill tires, but they're pretty close. They're made for enduro use, so they're made to withstand a beating and have a super thick sidewall. But I've heard something cool about these beefy boy tires that I just had to find out for myself. Okay, with these thick tires, they have really thick sidewalls, so they shouldn't roll in the turns. Oh dude, this is awesome. They don't fold at all. This is what I've been looking for. Wow. I can carve this bike so well. What? All right, let's see how good this traction is in the mud. Whoa, dude, they hooked up so well. Wow. We gotta weigh this bike. It feels super heavy. Oh, what in the world? 42 pounds out of the box. Now I know why they call it a Colossus, but let's see what we can do to make this bike better. Before I take this bike out for a proper test, there's some things I need to do to make this bike my own. Is this bike my own? I actually emailed my Polygon contact when I got this bike, asking if this is a review bike or if it's my bike to own, and all he said was, surprise! So I have no clue. And if you want to check out this bike for yourself, I'll have a link in the description, and any bikes bought through my link majorly helps out the channel, but doesn't cost you a thing. But let's see if I can get this bike under 40 pounds. All right, this bike should ride much better now. And I changed out pretty much every single contact point. And while I was converting to tubeless, I checked. These tires weigh 1,400 grams a piece. And there's no reason to run tubes in super gravity tires, so that should save a ton of weight. I installed my favorite bars and grips, and this combo will make sure that I never ever get arm pump. Then I installed some P&W loam pedals, and fun fact, I've never rode flat pedals on an enduro bike. I'm always clipped in. So I'm really curious how that goes. Then, even though I did a whole bedding procedure on the brakes, these brakes had like no stopping power. And I thought, oh great, here we go again, another SRAM brake set that sucks. So I went online and found Dottie talking about brake pads and dipping them in water and rubbing them together to help bed them in. And just now I took it for a spin out front and man, that made a huge difference. And these brakes are ultra powerful. And I just love the dry metallic feeling. Maybe SRAM brakes are all right after all. But after all these changes, let's see what it weighs. Oh, so close, 40.2 pounds. But weight's not gonna matter for where we're headed.
All right, we are out here at Lake Leatherwood, the best trails in Northwest Arkansas for a shuttle day. And this should really test this bike. I couldn't test him in Bentonville. It's just not chunky enough. And I really wanna see if this bike can jump, turn, do drops, and then ultimately see if it can ride some chunk. So let's hit it. All right. Oh, this bike is heavy. All right. So freaking nice right now. All right, well, I know this is a shuttle park, but there's still a little bit of climbing, but it's funny. I actually did a ride. It was 4 hours long, and somehow this place was uphill both ways. 4 hours of riding, and it was uphill both ways. So I climbed this bike quite a bit, and this bike is actually a really good climber, and it's because of the 6-bar suspension. There's no pedal bob, really efficient, and the seat tube angle is really far forward. I think it's like 77 degrees, and I've never rode a bike with this steep of a seat tube angle. Now this Shimano Dior XT drivetrain is actually pretty solid. I know that the SRAM transmission, they say that you can shift under load. Well, this one you can shift under load too. I'm pretty impressed. We're at the top, let's go hit it.
The biggest thing I noticed about this bike and jumping was not that the suspension could handle those big cases right there. I'm gonna need a lawyer for those cases for sure, but it was actually the pedals. I didn't miss my clip pedals at all. And this is a surprise for me because I was kind of thinking that the clip pedals were somewhat of a crutch for me in the way. So I was really pumped.
Got my foot on the ground. Yeah. Oh yeah, that jump trail was so sick. And man, I can really just take this bike and just huck it as far as I can go. A couple of those, I was like jumping like, oh, there's the landing, see you later. But this bike can just handle those big hits, and it really reminds me of a park bike. But let's go see if we can hit some drops.
Since this Polygon Colossus is so supportive with overclearing jumps, I wanted to hit a drop here that I've never done before. But first, warm up.
All right, we're here at the first drop, and this run up is so jacked. All right, dropping. Yeah! Yeah!
Ooh. With the warm-up out of the way, it was time to head straight to the drop in question. And as we arrived, my cameraman Cass gave me some wise words of encouragement.
I've seen kids wipe out on this one.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Like they break at the last second and go, whoa!
Oh yeah. Yeah, this one's scary because you gotta drop into it.
Even though that drop was pretty big, I learned from MTB Allen that you should only do a max of 3 run-ups to a new feature because it'll create a mental block. And that run-up was number 1.
Oh, that was the first time. Way too slow. Oh my goodness.
I carried on to another couple of drops and eventually came to a conclusion.
Oh. Yeah. Dude, those drops were sick. And dude, I can't believe I hit that one boner log drop. I've never hit that one before. But I did kind of clap out the fork a couple times. And I'm not gonna blame the bike. The rear end didn't bottom out. The rear end felt super supportive. And I just love the linkage, how supportive that feels. but I probably need some volume spacers. I'm not gonna blame the bike, but let's go see if we can hit some turns.
Going into this, I already had a pretty good idea how this bike turned because of my first ride. And you wouldn't think that an enduro bike with a 63.5 degree head tube angle and a 1240 wheelbase and a tall bottom bracket would turn well, but it just loves to lean side to side. A quick note, none of these clips in my mind showed how well this bike turned because filming here was actually very difficult, going up and down all the steep terrain just to get a clip. But just take my word for it, this bike can turn way better than all 4 of my enduro bikes. Oh, did I say 4? Oops.
Wow, dude, this bike turns so well. I am impressed. I've never had an enduro bike turn that well. And there's something about this bike that's making it happen. I've never felt that before. This might be one of my favorite enduro bikes to date, but only if it can hit good chunk. So let's go find some chunk.
Hitting chunk is one of my favorite things to do because it beats me up and I find it very humbling. So for an enduro bike, it's super important that it can handle it well. And being able to ride chunk with your level of speed and aggression comes down to how well the suspension is set up. And looking back at the footage, my fork's rebound was just way too fast, but that's my fault. But the rear end, after messing with the settings, was perfect and had a pillow-like resistance to bottoming out.
I really do like these gravity casing tires, but I think I just found the limit. The wet stuff, one day I'll figure out how to trust my tires and what's a good tire for the wet stuff. But other than that, this bike is ripping still. But let me tell you what I noticed about this bike that is pretty cool. At first it was so heavy and it felt like a park bike. Like, I've never rode a park bike before, but I imagine just super heavy, super tanky, and you can just huck it and it's fine. But then I remembered, this is Polygon's Enduro race bike. So then I actually gave it some beans. I went into the attack position, and that's when I found out that this bike can turn like no other. And you can lean it to the side, pitch it over, and that's not something I felt on a bike before. Compared to the Common Saw, because remember, I've had 3 enduro bikes now. The Common Saw Meta SX is very much a comfort bike to me. Really confidence inspiring, huck it into anything. You can't really attack that bike. This bike, you can attack it, you can chill, you can hit some jumps, you can pretty much do everything on it. So, I don't know. I'm really happy to have found out that this bike has really good characteristics. And if you want to get one for yourself, I'll have the link in the description. But I think I should take this to a place a little bit more famous, shall we?